I'm on a quest to read every Star Wars novel ever written because, oh my god, there are more of these. Today I'm reading Aliens, Tales from a Galaxy Far, Far Away by Landry Q. Walker, which is a series of short stories set to tie into The Force Awakens. These ones are all by the same author, but there's still 6 distinct short stories about 6 distinct aliens, which means I need to do 6 distinct reviews, and I don't have any more time to explain it. High Noon on Jakku is a Western sheriff-type story about Constable Zuvio, a character who was cut out of the movie but appeared in some merchandise and in this tie-in. A banking ship on its way through Naima Outpost on Jakku is robbed, and Constable Zuvio has to find out who's responsible. It's a classic Western train robbery told through the lens of Star Wars, and I think it's very cute. In fact, all of the shorts in this book are pastiches of classic genre fiction, but we'll get to that. High Noon on Jakku leans very heavily into the gunslinger vibes, and it's a lot of fun. 6 out of 10. A Recipe for Death is a murder mystery with the added layer of it being a challenge cooking show like Chopped. It's an odd combination of themes, but it doesn't work half bad. The sous chef in Maz Kanata's castle has been murdered, and the head chef can tell that he's being framed for the crimes by someone who stole the sous chef's famed recipe book. So he sets up a competition to suss out which assistant chef is cooking above their pay grade and which one killed for their skills. This one's a little bit weird, but it's fun, and it has some nice twists and turns. If you like Chopped, you'll probably get a kick out of this. It also gets bonus points for being one of the first books released in the new canon and immediately recanonizing Gormanda from the holiday special. 6 out of 10. All Creatures Great and Small is a story about Babajo, this funky-looking humpback thing, in a sort of Snow White Die Hard mashup. He and his village are rounded up by Zygerian slavers, so Babajo tells the townsfolk stories to calm them as his animal friends sneak out to disrupt and vanquish the slavers. This one feels a lot more silly than a lot of the other stories do, which is really saying something. It's a fairly silly book, but it also has a story that implies that Babajo was on the Death Star at the same time as the Millennium Falcon was, and that he and his animal friends were pivotal in its destruction, and I don't know. To give it credit, the book does mostly come away concluding that it's just a story and isn't actually true. But still, I'm watching you. 5 out of 10. The Face of Evil is a sort of light horror story. Think of it like an episode of The Twilight Zone playing on Frankenstein. After pulling off a massively successful heist, Rin Biggleston betrays and kills her partner in crime before finding a place to lay low while the authorities search for the culprit. However, after finding 2 Frigosian surgeons in the tower of Maz Kanata's castle, they offer to restructure her face so that she can blend into a crowd seamlessly. This is probably my favorite short story in the book, and is a fun take on some classic themes. My one critique is that Maz Kanata is usually portrayed as a more or less heroic and good character, so her having 2 psychotic mad scientists living in her house feels odd. That doesn't make the book any worse, but it is a little bit weird. That said, I give it a 6.5, maybe even a 7 out of 10. True Love is about Unkar Plutt getting catfished. No, I am not kidding. 2 of Unkar's scrapworkers decide to use a hollow image of a female Krulute, Unkar's species, to trick him into giving them his vault of credits as the richest being in the outpost. But that fake female Krulute is made using droid AI, and it starts to take on a bit of a life of its own. So we've got some her mixed in here too. This one is fun, funny, and it resolves in a satisfying way. 6 out of 10. And finally, The Crimson Corsair and the Lost Treasure of Count Dooku. This is probably the most significant of the stories in this book, and for reasons that a lot of people probably don't know about. The Pirate King, the Crimson Corsair, and his crew get wind of a lost separatist vault on the desert planet of Jakku. I mean Tatooine. I mean Panema. It's a new desert planet. But as they race to claim Dooku's treasure, a lot of other pirates do the same, so you get sort of a Mad Max mad scramble to get to the treasure first. This story is mostly significant because, spoiler alert, the treasure turns out to be the last living clone trooper, Kix. Kix has become a somewhat popular figure among fans as a clone who was kept in stasis up until the sequel era, but not many people know that that comes from this book, which is a shame because Walker deserves credit for creating such a fan-favorite piece of lore. Which is why, even knowing that, I strongly recommend picking this book up. These stories are fun, and frankly, you can get it for dirt cheap. I'm talking like $5 for a hardcover. And it's well worth the price. The Crimson Corsair gets a 6 out of 10, and that's what I'd give the book as a whole. I strongly enjoyed it, and you probably will too.